Lauren Steinlage. I signed on here a year ago as the farmer trial lead and work heavily with Margaret in Memphis. We'll talk to her in a little bit. I'll introduce the farmers here quick. We've got Mitchell Hora, Dan Galing, and Ryan Gibbs from Dyersville, or what is the town you're at down there?
It's called
Dyersville. But over the years, I've been actually involved with Ag Venture Alliance for 6 years, I believe. But I started out with the farmer selection team, working with Mark, and then we've been doing the field trials. Now I get the luxury of actually getting out here and working directly with the farmers. I always tell everybody, one of the neatest things about being on the farmer selection team with Mark is we really get to learn these companies, and working with these companies is about like watching your kids grow up. I think is about the best way to say it. Well, now, stepping into the farmer trial lead, I've really got to see the connection between the farmer and the founder. So, last night was a pretty cool moment for us when we bring all them together, and it's just kind of neat. The one thing I did have to crack a little joke about with Spencer, he mentioned earlier about our communications. Spencer, we are texting. So, to me, that's been one of the best ways to actually get the farmers' attention, and we got a nice little chat group going together. How many farmer trial members do we have here right now? If you could stand up so people recognize, this is one of the core principles Spencer had up here earlier. We got you met earlier, the Countryside Angels, the founders. The Farmer Trial Network is the one that helps put the boots on the ground. So thank all them. I think Spencer will probably close it out, but I want to make sure Kathy gets a little handout here for all the work she did putting this meeting together. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mitchell, kind of do an introduction, and then I got kind of a lead question for you. So tell us about your farm and your family.
10-4. Good to be here, everyone. Wear a couple different hats with this. On the farmer side, I'm a seventh generation farmer from down in Washington County. Farm with my parents down there, and we're about 700-acre operation. I bought a 40-acre farm after graduating Iowa State in 2017 to add on to the operation. I have two little kids that are part of the 8th generation. So as companies are working with our farm, Dad is the one that's on the farm full-time, running the day-to-day operation. I like to joke, I hang out with guys like Lauren and bring back crazy ideas, and he's got to figure out how to make them work. So we've gotten creative, but he likes it. He enjoys, and he's part of the Farm Trial Network. We're both members of Countryside Angels as well. He was wanting to be here today, but couldn't end up making it, he and my mom. But with our farm, Dad is the guy that's got to go figure out how to make it work, the guy running it full time, and I'm out there when I'm able and take a lot of Zoom calls from the combine and from the tractor, which has been a lot of fun. We've done a bunch of different trials, both through the network, but a lot of stuff on our own. We've tried, 75 or so different biological products or other nutrient products, things like that. Lots and lots of stuff, a lot of data collection, a lot of soil data, stuff like that. And I think that's on the farm side. I also wear another hat. Missed out this morning, was trying to make us all some money here on your investment with Continuum Ag. Continuum Ag, I'm the founder and CEO of. Ag Ventures has invested we've raised 3 rounds of capital, and Ag Ventures has been a part of each round. Also, we participated in a round with Countryside Angels, so thanks to you guys that are shareholders and members of that as well. And Continuum Ag is a software company that I started in 2015. We are focused on soil health, but now even more specifically getting farmers their carbon intensity score, basically the carbon footprint per bushel. And we charge an annual subscription fee to get that data verified. We've expanded the team about 36 employees now, and really making things rock and roll. But doing that from Washington County, and I think last thing on the farmer piece, I think why Lauren wanted me on this is obviously wearing a couple hats, but my approach and I think why we've been able to find success is everything that I built for my own family farm. I knew that we needed tools to quantify our soil health, and what didn't exist, so we built it. I knew we needed tools to take that data into a precision ag variable rate recommendation. It didn't exist, so we built it. this carbon intensity thing, or how do we quantify our carbon footprint of our farm? It didn't exist, so we built it. And then we need to get that verified so we can get it paid, and that didn't exist, so we built it and just continued to iterate and expand. But I think that's been an important place, and I think an interesting now opportunity for the Farmer Trial Network being so in touch with the startups, but making sure that you're really solving for a specific problem, I think is really the important thing. And wearing that hat makes me know exactly what that problem has been. So anyway.
Mitchell kind of hit upon it. Keep the mic there. One of the reasons I wanted him on here is he's wore all the hats that we have to offer, basically. So my first question to Mitchell is going to be, when you look for a company to work with, what do you look for?
Number one, it's got to be easy. It's got to fit into our current system. So like from a trial standpoint, right, it's got to either go in furrow, because we've already got in furrow on the planter, or it's got to go on foliar. If it's other stuff, it's going to be probably too tough and not really fit our program. So it's got to be easy. On an outcome-based program, I'm typically looking, I need at least 3x ROI. Once it's in commercial stage and stuff, like 3x ROI, bare minimum. But the sweet spot is, if it's a product, right, like a biological, if it's something that I can buy for like $10 an acre and be able to see a double-digit yield return, though, and it fits into my system, that's what we want. And we've got a couple products like that we continue to buy after trialing them for years. But I think that's been the key. It's got to be easy, got to be cost effective, very consistent, clear return on investment.
Now I'll have you put your other hat on. What do you look in a farmer to work with when you're doing, as a founder, what do you look for in a farmer? Because that's one of the key things I get to do is I help put the farmer and the founders together. So looking for advice here. I
think when we went through the Ag Launch program and me and Margaret were hanging out down in Tennessee, I honestly think we kind of screwed up our trial at the beginning. And with Continuum Ag, our system, we really couldn't do a A/B testing trial, like how we mostly think about running trials and running statistical regressions and stuff like that. Really what I should have been doing is providing more of a demonstration, and a demonstration trial versus a scientific A/B testing trial. And just needing farmers that can give us good, honest feedback, farmers that are willing to answer the phone and be available. So I think that's really what it boils down to, is good, honest feedback, farmers that are going to take a little bit of some time and some focus to put some meaningful thought into it so that we can learn something and create value for them. So I think that's what it boils down to.
All right. Thank you for that, Mitchell. Dan, would you care to tell us about your farm, your family?
Yeah.
Where you're coming from?
Dan Galing's my name. I'm from Grand Meadow, Minnesota. That's just a little bit south of Rochester. My wife, Kathy, and I've got 6 kids. And we have a farm there at Grand Meadow, and I used to farm about 1,200 acres. I'm the oldest guy here, I can see. I'm 70 right now. And so a few years ago, I decided to cut back and then enjoy it more. And so that led into me doing more and more trials. Out of our 6 kids, 5 of them went in the medical field, like my wife, and one of them became an agronomist and happened to work at a local co-op near me, just a mile and a half down the road. And so as he had different products to show and trial and test, my whole farm is because I had extra time and kept the big machinery, the whole farm's just about trials. And it's a lot of fun doing that stuff, and that's kind of what I'm doing now, is for fun. And
you kind of led right into my next question. Okay. What actually intrigues you to go to that level? It's a special person that wants to do the trials and stuff like that. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, the curiosity. It is fun to see something that you think will work, and it goes all the way and turns out that it does work. And of course, the majority don't. But it's those that, there's just a feel-good feeling when you see something that actually works And, like you said, consistently 3 times, oh my gosh, I found something, It's, but I did trial with this. We do lots of stuff on our own. It's constant, whatever. He knows it's a pretty good area that he has. It's more than just Grand Meadow there. He's about a 60-mile radius, so they're 120 miles in all directions, and about 6 different co-op stations. But he works with all these different test plots and stuff. So from data that he collects from that, gives us ideas to try on my farm. That's where a lot of it comes from. And but we did the Spornado, and that for 2 years, and remarkably, it showed it worked. A week to 2 weeks before you could visually see the fungus, it showed up in the cartridges that we mailed in. So it was, a surprise. It works, I guess.
All right, thanks for that. Ryan Gibbs, care to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about your family and farm.
Yeah, Ryan Gibbs, Northeast Iowa. I'm over by Dyersville, by the Field of Dreams. Most people are familiar with that. About 10 miles from there. Very diverse farming operation, about 400 acres of our own that we rent and own. Corn, soybeans, cereal, rye, seed production. We did a little bit of buckwheat the last 2 years. Pretty much all no-till cover crop. We're integrating some strip till this year on some of our acres. We raised a couple thousand hogs, some pasture-raised cattle that we rotational graze, and chickens for the kids. Sell cover crop seed, do seed application services. I also grow seed for seed production. I run the farming operations solo. I hired my dad back part-time after he retired from his business, so I do have a part-time employee. So he helps me out with that. We do, a lot of different things. Like I said, no-till cover crop. Starting to dabble into making our own compost biological product. I've been doing trials on my farm myself, like my own individual trials for years. I ain't afraid to do something different and try new things. I got to meet Lauren actually through Rantizo with the drone spraying company. I did drone spraying for a couple years until my cover crop business expanded and blew up, and so I decided I like doing that better than being around the chemicals. So we went the opposite direction. We actually went away from more chemicals. So that's how I got to meet Lauren, and then I learned about Ag Ventures Alliance a few years ago, and I met, what's his name? Spencer at the Iowa Farm Bureau Young Farmer Conference too. So it all kind of collaborated together, and then I joined Ag Ventures here this last summer. So this fall I did some trials, product trials, some Hoganics, Evola on the farm. So it's interesting being able to try new stuff and be able to see the results or no results or whatever it entails. It's nice working with products that are simple to work with, easy to apply, that fit into my system. And it's nice that I get to do what I want with my farming operation. I don't have a generation above me telling me how things have to be done. I can do whatever I want with my acres, so it's kind of nice. And then with my business, I get to showcase them to other people if they do work and whatnot.
One of the questions I had for you is what actually drives you to do all the change you've done in the last 5 years? You kind of gave us a little brief history, but what is the ultimate driving force?
I want my farm to be better for my kids than when I received it. So that and profitability, those two things. Profitability is obviously first. I'm 35 years old. It's got to be profitable. We got farm payments. We got expansion goals. We want to keep getting better and better and better. So ROI and profitability comes first, but it seems like it ties directly with soil health and doing things more efficient, less passes across the field, taking care of what we got to make it better. So we've seen it on our farm. I mean, our yields have gone up, kind of stayed the same, gone up. I mean, we've been in this uphill with our yield and return on investment. So it's working. It's just a lot of challenges. But you just got to roll with the punches. So it seems like it works for me. I'm the one in the neighborhood that's always doing something different. So it's working and it's paying the bills. So we just keep doing it.
Oh, and one of the fun conversations we had, I think it was just a couple days ago, is Rise Bio. You've actually done the trial with them for this year already. You care to share some of the results?
Yeah. So I actually learned about Rise Bio at the Big Soil Health event in December. And Russell Hendricks like, Ryan, you need to go talk to that guy over there. And I'm like, okay. So I went and talked to him. I'm like, this is really interesting. I can send you my seed, my soil. You can tell me how, my program that I'm going to run in furrow will work or will not work, or what do you see and that's good and what's bad. And, they're great to work with on it. And that was before I knew that they were with Ag Venture. I did not know that at that time. So we sent our stuff down there and, we got some interesting results. We make some of our own biological on the farm. We're also doing some fertility and furrow and whatnot. And my soil and seed and my program actually outperformed the other companies. So it was kind of interesting to be able to see that. And, everybody's soil and farm is different. So what works on your operation might not work on mine, with a certain product. And, that the biological products, there's thousands of them out there. So, do they work? Do they not? Well, that's a great way to find out if they do or they don't. And that can mean the difference of, thousands of dollars on your farm. If it's $12 an acre, do I actually need it or not? Or did it give me a positive return on investment? So that's what we're after, is a return on investment. Like Mitchell said earlier, you want to see a 3 times return on investment. And I'm the same way with my farm. If it's going to make me a ROI and it's safe to handle, and if it makes sense biologically and whatnot with nature, then, let's use it if it works.
All righty, thank you for that. And I guess the reason I wanted you to tell that story is, last night at our meeting, one of the common denominators was everybody was telling the new guys that we're trying to bring in how cool it is to have front row seats to the future. And that's what this whole relationship is about. So that opens me up to Margaret. Where do we want to go today, Margaret? We were just talking before we came on. We actually go back way before Ag Launch, way before Ag Venture Alliance. But it's been some of the neat part of the relationship is how people come together and you just kind of keep bumping into each other through these events and stuff like that. So before Margaret kicks in, I want you to start thinking of questions. I've got one more for her after but I really want audience participation, so I'll probably be joining you guys in the audience. Start getting ready for questions and get your hands up.
Well, I am Margaret Oldham. I'm happy to be here. I'm an IVA member myself and have made one investment through Countryside Angels. So I wear all those hats. I'm representing Ag Launch. I'm a VP of Innovation there. I've spent my whole life in agriculture. I was raised on a dairy farm, so grew up milking cows, and you all know that means I know what hard work is all about, right? So, was the daughter of a very innovative farming parents. And so I saw a lot of innovation happening on our farm. I majored in ag, went to work in ag, and worked for a couple of major ag chem companies before becoming a partner in a word of mouth marketing company. And in that company, we really focused in on bringing innovation to market for most of the national or international companies, like an Elanco Animal Health, a Monsanto, FMC, et cetera. And so throughout my career, it's really been focused on innovation and training others to use new things, new ideas, et cetera. So at Ag Launch, as VP of Innovation, I lead the entrepreneurship team, who's responsible for leading the process to select companies that come into the portfolio. With our farm team, we're the only accelerator that has an on-staff farm team to actually connect farmers and entrepreneurs so that we get those trials out. And Ag Ventures Alliance is our wonderful partner. We are so aligned in mission and objectives. So it's an extension, really the two are extensions of each other in many ways. So thank you for everyone who's done a trial or been a part of that. It is so very important. The information that Dan got for Spornado helped them identify tar spot in the field. Before that, they didn't have the spores to be able to do that. So Dan's work helped bring a new element of their solution. So that's so critical. Rantizo, I remember the first trial I saw with them, the drone went up, the drone went down. Trial over. The next one, the drone went up, the drone went in the tree, trial over. So it takes a bit of risk and time sometimes to see some of these technologies work out. That's why we're always looking for farmers who are interested and curious about what's next, what's going to drive the future. It's really important for the startups that we work with to hear the message that it needs to be simple, easy to use, and it's got to have an ROI. So I'll stop there, Lauren.
One of the things we learned when I get behind the scenes this year is the data collection and that. You know, that's been one of the biggest stress points that we're focusing on this year. So when Spencer mentioned earlier about quality versus quantity, we want to really slow down and help these companies learn and understand what we're actually seeing in that. So that's why we're going through a lot of training right now. You know, we're doing Zoom calls, and you know, that's what last night was. That's kind of the next step in what we want to help these farmers learn. And as I've told Spencer many times, my goal is we're going to put the network in the farmer network. So we're trying to build them relationships amongst the farmers and that. Which reminds me, you know, if you've met a company today, or for the founders, if you've met a farmer today that you want to work with, reach out to me. We will make sure we get you in contact and do what we can to get these trials in place. You know, spring's going to be right here around the corner. So my other question for Margaret was, you know, what are we looking for in the future, I guess? What do you see as part of the future of the companies we're looking for? You know, Spencer had the graphs and that. Where do you see
Right.
the horizons?
Right. So, you know, our selection process and everything we do is farmer-driven. So farmers like Mark and Lauren have been on the selection committee for a few years, but anybody in the Ag Launch Farmer Network is able to vote on the companies. So we ask you to vote on the value to you on your farm, the value to the industry, and whether or not you're willing to trial it. Those three questions, I maintain, will tell me everything I need to know, right? Like if nobody's willing to trial it, then why would we bring it in? And if there's no value to the industry but only your farm, that tells me there may not be a big enough market. So so those three questions really help us narrow down then the companies that we want to look at more closely. I think in answer to your question, Lauren, we're always looking for solutions to the big problems. And we're, you know, labor, water, you know, just how do we be more efficient and profitable? There's so many things that we face day in and day out, and what are those new solutions going to be that are going to help us survive that or make it better? And we look at both the animal side as well as the crop side and fruits and vegetables as well. And, you know, one example that I'd like to share that was so important about how farmers make a difference and really drive the future of these companies. We start with them really early. It's usually like an idea. Like you said, Mitchell, you pivoted since we came through the program. I still work with Mitchell quarterly on an advisory basis. So, but one company was spinning out of the human health side around genomics, and we matched them with a swine producer and a pork producer, and they you know, generated a report. They're looking at how they can identify disease early so that there can be early interventions and prevent a loss in the barn. So they presented, I think, 1,000-page report, an individual report for every pig. And the farmer's like, what do I do with this? So that simple little thing, helping them redesign, you know, just even the way they report their information was a critical step in helping them adapt to agriculture. So it may sound crazy, but the little things matter, and having farmers give input early makes a huge difference.
Do we have any questions in the audience? Please get your hand up. I'll start heading towards you. In the meantime, I've got a question for our farmers. How do you integrate any of the trial findings that you've learned working with some of these companies? What have you been able to implement on your farm overall?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we've tried way too many different things, but have really enjoyed it. And I think to your point too, the right size. I think the right size has been really what's critical for us. Is we're 700 acres, but we've got nice, good equipment that we can get it done. And on our farm, we can dork around with doing trials. Some farmers, they can't. When you reach a large farm and they're going to try your product, if they're a 10,000 acre farm, they can't dork around with a 10 acre trial, because dorking around with that and spending an extra couple hours dorking around with the trial, that screws up all their other efficiencies across thousands of other acres. But on a farm like our size, we can dork around with stuff, and yeah, it might, delay things a little bit, but we can get it done. But anyway, to answer the question, we throw out products, especially thinking biologicals or sensors or something like that. Usually we try it on a relatively small scale year 1, maybe try it again year 2, scale it up, try it a little bit differently, and then by year 3, if it's getting consistent ROI, we'll scale it up. Like I said, minimum to continue on is 3x ROI, but the products that we actually purchase and actually adopt at scale, we're looking for more like 5, 7, 10x ROI type of stuff to really go, because there's so many different products out there that we're gonna actually purchase and use at scale the home runs. The base hits are great, but we want to buy the products out of the home runs. So that's how we've approached it.
Question again, I guess, so I could.
Are you able to integrate any of the things you've learned through some of these trials on your farm?
Yes. Like him, a lot of times I'll start out with maybe a dozen different products, and it takes 160 acres by the time you triple replicate it so that you don't foul it up. The next year you can get it down, and then the winners. It's through the process of elimination, you determine which ones you should keep with, I guess.
Quick follow-up to that, with the drought we had this year, what were some things you learned just with some of the trials you saw this year, just thanks to Mother Nature?
Yeah, we were in an area where we normally get too much rain. Our land is black, and we have to be tiled every 40 feet. It's that wet, and it's rain we never worry about. This year, if you looked at the big drought map, the little red spot, that was us. And I guess, according to my son, on 135 years of data, we had the driest 90 days starting in June through August. So I thought that ruined our fungus trial. It didn't. It was surprising, just like the year before. It showed about 1 week after it showed up on the Spornado, we had tar spot. Although, because it stayed dry, we didn't move any spraying up, and it disappeared because of the dry weather. So we did learn that. And interesting enough, we still got a response out of the fungicides that we did, where we used side by sides, because of the cooler leaf temperature, the health that the plant did. So we normally don't get that kind of a year to test that. So that turned out to be a test on a dry year that we don't. That's about
On
it.
that one, Ryan?
Well, this fall was the first fall that I did trials with Ag Ventures, so can't really say I've got any data on that except for my own data on my own trials, and this year almost throw that out the window because we were in a D4 drought. So, everywhere we had check strips and stuff, you couldn't really hardly see any difference on the stuff that we did on our farm, because you'd go across the field and you'd hit, 40, 50 bushel corn and 316 bushel corn all in the same pass. So it was very skewed data. I mean, even my maps just looked like spotted messes everywhere there was light spots. So it's hard getting data this year. But we're doing some other trials on our farm that are my own independent trials that we've been doing for a few years. So we'll throw this last year's data in the mix, but it's almost like one of them odd years. I like to see 3 to 5 years of data on my farm before I can really say if it works or if it doesn't work. I don't want to go off just 1 year data. It's kind of hard for that to give an honest answer to a person. It's my opinion.
I'm glad you volunteered, Bob, here. You ended with data, so I volunteered Bob to ask the next question.
One of the reasons people are suspicious of university trials and those kind of results is you kind of look to who's funding it. So I'd ask you guys, as growers, do you feel pressure from your cooperators to give them the answer they want. And I don't know whether you're compensated or not, but to me, it's a legitimate thing. You want the innovators to be successful, but you also want to tell them the truth.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'm going to tell them how it is, whether it's positive or negative. And if I've got the yield results or the pictures of the plant roots or everything, that can tell it too. So you can't lie to them and then show them a picture that's the opposite, So, and from my perspective, if I was the one with the product and I was giving it to farmers to trial, I want to know the truth. Does it work or does it not? Because don't feed me a bunch of false information if it didn't work, but it actually did, or vice versa. I want to know and where I can improve on that, from a producer standpoint. But, as for me, trying these different products and stuff, I'm going to give them my unbiased result. It doesn't matter if you're compensated or not. Here's the results. That's just the honesty of a person to, that's what I'm doing. So.
Are the trials vetted before they're distributed, or do all companies that want to try something given an opportunity, and who pays for it?
Maybe real quick, I got a thought on Bob's question here too. And then to get to Leah, who's the vetting and process is probably on your side. On the university stuff, on my farm, we don't look at university data at all. Like I know that their equipment is not the same par as ours. The trial is the size of, a little block on this stage, and my farm is in the real world. So we don't really look at that, but I do tell companies, you still got to do it. You got to jump through the hoops. If you're a biological company or genomics or whatever, you still got to do the university trials. They still have validity. You've got to do it. You've got to jump through the hoop. But just me being, I want to see it myself, or I want to see it on my neighbor's farm for me to try it. When I'm giving feedback, at Continuum Ag, we've gotten paid to do research plots, right? Continuum Ag, at the beginning, we got hired by companies to do paid research, but we would give them the report. In our research trials where we were getting paid, the company paying for the trial owns the data. We don't share it publicly. We don't publish it or nothing. They own the data, and we would show them, here's the raw results, and sometimes your product didn't work, and sometimes it was good. If it didn't work, we were doing the Haney test and tissue sampling and imagery, and usually I could find still some highlights and like, hey, you didn't get yield, but hey, maybe we saw a biological activity improvement, or we did get some nutrient uptake in a certain component on a tissue or a sap analysis test. So usually would find some highlights to at least get them something that they could show as a positive out of the trial, but absolutely showing them, hey, it didn't actually end up working. And then we probably don't scale it the following year like you were talking, and don't necessarily move forward with them in years to come. Not that it doesn't work, it just didn't work on my farm, and that's okay. But you want to talk on the process?
Yeah, I can. I would say too, so through the Ag Launch Farmers Network and the LLC, where the startups give equity to the farmers for doing the trials, the expectation is to do 2 years of trials. It's not to give 2 years of positive results. It's really meant, we tell them right up front, we're here to help you figure your product out early. In entrepreneurship, there's a thing called fail fast. So we try to find good founders, good people who have good ideas, and let's see if they're going to work. And if they're not going to work, let's figure it out fast and get them working on something else. And so I think any trial where you learn something is not a failure. And so then I think, what was the question over here?
How do you vet and what's the process?
Oh yeah, how do you vet the companies and what's that process? Okay, so in the Ag Launch Farmer Network, we have, I mentioned a farmer vote. So anybody that's a part of that gets to vote on those 3 things: the value to the industry, the value to your farm, and whether you're willing to trial it on the farm. We tally those votes, and we take the top 30 companies, ask them to send a video pitch, and then our selection committee will look through those, narrow it down. We then invite about 20 companies to come spend a week with us so we can look under the hood, so to speak, get to know if that founder is coachable. Nothing worse than working with somebody that doesn't want to follow your advice, right? So, and we're forging a 2-year relationship here. So, coachable, do they really have something? And also, are they ready? So, in our network, we prefer that they be ready to go to the farm. And we're looking at commercial farms, not the small plot research typically. Most of our funding, I think that was a question too. We do offset cost or cost share with farmers so that the entrepreneur and the farmer are whole, I guess, at the end. Different states, we have different programs, so that's a variation that happens. But in the end, the Farmer Selection Committee, Mark Hanna, Lauren Steinlage, this past year we had Helly Rudenclaw from Oregon, Hallie Schaffner from Arkansas, Matthew Robinson, and Alex Forsbach from Tennessee. Those 6 farmers, along with Spencer, helped make a decision, and we selected 10 companies to move forward. And they go through the accelerator, they give up $100,000 worth of equity to the Farmers LLC, and they get 2 years of business development coaching and 2 years of farm trials for that.
Got a question here, kind of self-serving, but also really, hopefully an interesting one for everybody. What is the number one current or anticipated challenge for you on your operation, and how have you tried to address that through trials to date?
I guess for me, it'd probably be white mold and beans. That's one of the reasons I tried this Vornado. They aren't there yet. But if we could get down the timing of when to spray, these fungicides only last a couple weeks. And it hits you when they start to flower, and that's the type of beans we raise up there anyway, flower way too long a season. So you could end up spraying it 3 times. And if you knew ahead of time when the pathogen was there, of course the weather's gotta be there too, but that would probably be, top of my list as being our biggest problem. You don't know?
Variety of different things come to mind. One, top of mind is the weather, of course, and how dry we've been. So number one, how can I be resilient? If we get very, very low rainfall, last year we had 6 inches of rain during the growing season. We only had 2 times where we got a 1-inch rainfall. So we've got to be resilient, and that, of course, has been through the soil health building stuff over time. But there's different microbial products there. I like using different weather stations and stuff too, like arable weather probes, stuff like that has worked well. But just making sure that we have the data to make good decisions and try to be as resilient as we can. But then obviously on my self-serving answer, right, is I got to tell my story into the supply chain now too, especially in regards to my carbon intensity score and being able to have the data across all my different implements to be able to make that as seamless as possible for my farm, but for my other farmers as well, that resiliency ties into being profitable, getting good yield based on the input. That's going to improve my CI score, and I've got to have the data all connected so it can be verified so I can get paid. So resiliency, especially against weather, being the number one risk every year.
I'm going to pick on Bob one more time here. Being the last night we had him come in and teach our Farmer Trial Network, I'll let him ask another question.
Might even be my last. If you're like everybody else, you all have variability on your farms. And when you're picking where to run the plot, the statisticians love consistency. They like a nice uniform soil type and all of that. Do you feel like you should have the choice of where the plot goes on your farms? Or do you want that to be part of the negotiation? Speak to that a little bit. It's plot selection criteria.
I think we've pretty well always chosen where to go. Sometimes companies want to tell us where to put it, and we pretty much say, no, we're going to do it how we want to do it. On our farm, the variability is huge. Our CSRs range from 5 to 100. My organic matters range from about 1% to 6.5%. So we got some variability, pretty well as extreme as you can get it. But a lot of times, a lot of these companies want to target the poor producing areas and show that they can get ROI there. I'm like, well, of course you can get ROI there. You can look at it different, and it might end up yielding a little bit better in some of these crappy producing areas. I want it. The best products that we are looking at is where I'm looking at 280 to 300 bushel corn, and can you perform there? Those are the winners. If it can work in the good soils and still be able to get that top end even better, those are the ones that we like. We do keep track of where we're placing stuff based on soil types, or in our software we have a machine learning system that creates zones. So that we do in some trials we've parsed out the data based on zone or based on soil type to try to create that consistency. Because in just a strip across the field, I could be going through 7 different soil types, for example. So usually when I'm looking at data and parsing out, did it actually work? I do tend to pull the yield data from specific consistent areas rather than just do the entire strip and say that was the yield, because that might not actually be representative of just the product itself. It might be influenced by the soil type and by weather variability.
Yeah, I usually try to find a place in the field that's the most even. Of course, we're tiled every 40 feet, so there isn't much variability. Ideally, you try to find where you have tile lines going the opposite direction, because even at 40 feet, there's in our area where we get so much rain, But one thing my son does is he'll take, like you'll have different soil types. If we do triple replicate clear across the field, he calls them snippets. And then we try to triple replicate. And then, with the product, without, the width of the planter. And then he'll take one soil type and compare. And, if there's 3 different soil types going across the field, he'll have 3 different snippets of what that did. And sometimes in certain soil types, you got a response where you didn't in the others. We'd find that. So.
When it comes to where I'm going to place product at, I've been putting it where it's most convenient and easy to access it, whether it be to look at it visually or to collect the data. So for example, we used the one product this fall. I actually split it on 2 different fields. One was non-GMO corn and one was GMO corn. So that way we got 2 different, results, I guess you could say. Both fields were by each other. They were just 2 different hybrids. So just to be able to see the difference. As for the other product that I used on my cereal rice seed production, I think they wanted on 20 acres, and I had a 40-acre field. So guess what? That field got split in half because it was the most convenient. So that's kind of how I do it, is based on my convenience. I haven't been told where I have to put something yet. And if that time comes, then we'll do what needs to do so we can, collaborate and work together to make it work for both of us.
I think we're about out of time here, but I want to leave everybody with a thank you. As members, you guys help fund the Farmer Trial Program here in Iowa. That's what helps these companies in turn. But what I would like to ask is, if you have contacts or stuff like that with the state officer, senator, legislation, please reach out to us and help us make them connections. I mean, last December we were in Des Moines. We met with Secretary Neg. We're trying to build them relationships. I think we're working on a few other things here. But that's what's going to help us really grow this and make something special out of it. So with that, round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you.